12 at 7 p.m. We'll begin with roll call.
Barbara Doss.
Here.
Eileen Nichols.
Here.
Dick Bonin.
Here.
Ken Killian.
Here.
Michael DeLeckie.
Here.
Patrice Steiner.
Here.
Stephen Becker.
Here.
First on the agenda tonight is a continuation of a hearing for a notice of intention not to renew a Class B combination beer and liquor license for the sale of alcoholic beverages, specifically TMH Properties LLC, Thomas Herbst agent. Let me note that this is a little bit of an unusual setup for us. We will take about a 2-minute recess when the hearing ends to reconfigure the room. Before that time, if there are parties that wish to register any kind of comment, we have an opportunity for you to do that. We'll begin tonight with Mr. Herbst, if you would come forward, and we ended last time with some questions and comments for you, and so if you will, you may continue.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. I was working very hard last week, and with Jan's help, we did the inspections, we did all the paperwork. I got the lease. The only thing I faulted is the signature of Mr. Luna. Mr. Luna was advised by his lawyer last Friday it would be to his best interest not to sign a lease with me. Therefore, presently, I do not have a lease. Given that in the instructions of the council from the last meeting, your vote will go forward as far as to renew my license or not to renew my license. If you decide, and I'm just putting this out there as my intentions are, if the council decides that to go forward and not renew my lease or my liquor license, I should say, I guess the only alternative I have, or the only thing I'm left to do is take it to the courts on the legality of the ordinance you're not going to renew my lease on. According to my attorney, when I got my liquor license on July 1st of 2011, the ordinance that you're using presently to not renew my liquor license was not on the books. Therefore, according to my attorney, I'm grandfathered in until July 1st of 2012. Now, it's going to be up to the courts to decide that, but I'm just letting my intentions know because of the expenses I'm going to have to incur, and also the city of Platteville going to have to incur, and here in this case with a judge on deciding if that ordinance affects me or if I'm grandfathered in. And that's all I have to say. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. McGraw, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions of him. I would provide some testimony from Michael Kilty as to the status of the offer that he has for the sale of that 45 North 2nd Street.
Okay. And is he still considered to be under oath?
I would ask him to be sworn. Come forward. Need to have a chair, don't we?
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now on hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Mike Kilty, 16828 Country Club Drive, Piazza, Iowa.
State your name, please.
Mike Kilty.
And you testified last time, still employed at Dubuque Bank and say,
I work for Heartland Financial, which is the parent company for Dubuque Bank and Trust.
okay. Last time you testified that there was an offer in the works for the sale of the property at 45 North 2nd Street.
The offer has been accepted. It is in place and finalized.
And when you say finalized, what do you mean?
Well, it's been accepted by both parties subject to the receipt of the liquor license by the buyer.
Anything else you need to say in order to bring the council up to date on the status of that transaction?
We have, in the past, well, since we've owned it, after the completion of the repair to the rear wall, we will have spent approximately $25,000 on the building. We put in the new roof, we've put in a new water heater, and then, of course, the repairs that are going to be finished on the rear wall. We've done other miscellaneous work. So our intent is to provide a good building, have it available to a buyer that we have as a sound buyer ready to go. With the liquor license being available for the building, we would have a deal that should be finalized after the August 8th redemption period. And the buyer would be able to then complete whatever repairs he's planning, if he's going to, and be ready to start the business, I would imagine, within 30 to 60 days after that.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Do you have any other comments you'd like to make?
In general, no. We would like to secure the liquor license for the building. We're pleased with the buyer that we have in place, and we're hoping that that's something that can happen.
Call, Ag, John, you need to step up and be sworn.
Brian, does he get to ask questions if he wants to?
Oh, excuse me. Do you wish to ask him questions?
No.
Thank you, Barb.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Yagcha, 235 North Elm Street. Yes, sir.
Mr. Jha, are you the buyer in the offer to purchase from the Dubuque Bank?
Yes, sir, I am.
And what's the status of the offer from your perspective?
It's a done deal, contingent on the liquor license. And may I continue?
Yeah.
My plan is to open a restaurant. I have 25 years of restaurant experience. I'm a classically trained French chef. I do Italian, I do Thai, I do Indian. And my plan is to bring the building back to its original great state. So historically, I want to do the front facade as well. I want to set the standard on 2nd Street. That goes with the new construction that's happening there. So my plans are, as I just stated, yes.
Assuming that you can get occupancy sometime in August, and assuming, of course, that you are able to get a liquor license for the premises, when would you expect that your business would be open?
I would say between September 1st and October 1st. September 15th and October 1st. So right in that span, about 45 to 60 days after getting the keys and changing hands.
Do you have anything else that you'd like to say to the council?
No, not at this time, though.
Thank you. There's opportunity.
Mr. Herbst, no? No questions for him?
I'm sorry, sir.
No questions for him?
No, sir.
One final witness would be Regina Pauley.
Does she have to be sworn, Barbara?
You have to be sworn, please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And please state your name and
Regina
address.
Pauley, 235 North Elm Street in Platteville. I'm the other person who wants to, the other half of the buyer. And we just had a couple interesting conversations. One was this afternoon where we found out, we went to Las Palmas and we asked the manager there, and he said that they have no intention of renting out the basement. And in fact, we could have rented it out for a party at any time. If we want, he's willing to do like single nights, but not long-term plans. And the other thing we found out is we spoke with a George Conacy, and he had spoken with Mr. Herbst and said that Mr. Herbst had offered to sell him the liquor license a few months ago for $10,000. So I just wanted you to be aware that we've had some interesting conversations about the liquor license. And my other thing I just want to state is, from what I've always experienced, and I've only lived in the town 11 years, but the liquor license has always gone with the building, and like the Holiday Bar has been a bar since 1910, and it has had many owners, but it has always remained a bar. And without a liquor license, I'm not sure what it will be. So I think that every place, I mean, Gangsters has had leased it to several people, but the owner has always, even after the lease, retained then the liquor license back. So even though they may have leased it to somebody, it's the owner who gets the license back, not the leasee. So that's just my observations of what has always occurred in this town and what the history for 100 years has always been for the bars in this town. Thank you.
Excuse me a second. Mr. Herbst, do you have any questions?
Thank you. Who was the person you said I offered to sell the liquor license to?
His name is George Konecny, Konecny.
Is he here?
No, I don't see him, but I have another person who,
Because this is all news to me and hearsay.
well, we spoke with him and he said he made a phone call
I don't
with
ever
you.
recall.
Hold it, hold it. You have a right to ask questions, but we can't be talking over each other.
When did you have the conversation with this person?
I had it with him about 2 o'clock this afternoon.
And when did this conversation supposedly took place between him and me?
He was looking into buying the building himself, and he made a telephone call to you in the fall, last fall. And this is when he said that you offered to sell it to him for $10,000.
So you're saying fall. What is fall? Is that October, September?
Yeah, do you remember? Did he give us an exact date?
May I say something? Actually, the gentleman's waiting by the phone right now.
Excuse me, we can't do this. You either have to be at the microphone.
Yeah, he did say that he could, he did say that he would be happy to speak. He wasn't coming to the city council meeting tonight, but he left his phone number if anyone was interested in phoning him to confirm this, to confirm
Yeah,
it.
he's waiting by the phone right now, and I have his number. So to make a short of it, I think.
I mean, that's what he told us.
He said he's more than willing to confirm everything that we're saying right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I have no more questions for this lady. It's immaterial to me anyway.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any other testimony?
None from this quarter.
Okay. But any final comments, Mr. Herbst?
Yes. I spent most of the morning in my attorney's office, and we went over the minutes from the meeting on May 31st. And the other interesting thing he brought up was the discussion with Parking Space LLC and Mr. James Scherner and Keystone Development. And in the documents, or the minutes, it stated he was trying, my attorney pointed out that he was trying to get somebody to develop out there for the last 4 to 5 years. And he's been sitting with this license for 4 to 5 years, and with no luck. And you're gonna not renew his license on the same grounds you were gonna renew my license, but yet you went ahead and voted to renew his license. So the whole issue or concern of how you exercise the equality of the so-called ordinance that's on the books is in question in my eyes too. And I just want to point out that to the council that it'll probably be another point brought up if this goes to court, it'll probably be another point brought up if this goes to court. I'm asking the court that given the position I was put in, and I tried my darnest to get this thing renewed with the time span I was given, I'm just asking if you give me more time, like you did Mr. Sneller and Keystone Development, I'm sure I can find a new location by August myself, but given the time frame, I couldn't be able to do it. So I turn back over to you guys.
Okay, thank you. Any final questions?
The testimony is that in April of 2011 is the time that Mr. Herbst left and closed the business at the North 2nd Street address. It's been closed since then. He's had better than a year to locate another place to conduct that business. Grounds exist under the ordinance 36092 for non-renewal. The business is closed. Mr. Herbst, the licensee, TMH Properties LLC, has no premises from which the business can be conducted. It's not been open for 120 days during the last 180-day period. And no evidence that he maintains open and active accounts with distributors, and I believe at the last hearing that he admitted he had no accounts with distributors. And so I believe that there are grounds for the council to determine that the license has been discontinued, use of the license has been discontinued, it's no longer in use, and not renew it for one or more of those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Council discussion.
For one point I'd like to make is Mr. Sneller's license comes from a building that doesn't exist. We're now talking about a building that still exists. It's not torn down. And we already have a place on the corner down here where it's been leased out, and then it closes, but the license still stays there for them to open up to another person. Now we're talking about trying to move a lease from one bar to another bar. That doesn't sound like that's going to happen because of the comments made here. That's it.
Other discussion.
I have a question for the city attorney. Is it possible for us to look again at the situation of Mr. Sneller and his license, to bring that back? And how soon could that be brought back, or do we have to wait until another year has passed?
Well, I don't know how. I mean, yes, I believe it can come back. It certainly can come back in a year. And as to whether or not it can come back before July 1, at this point, sitting here, I do not know the answer to that question. But I would suggest that the merits of this case be decided separate from whatever you've done with respect to the other license. They're two different matters.
I understand that, but in thinking about this since the May 31st meeting, I've had different thoughts about it. So that's why I asked the question.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it could be brought back in 3 months, 6 months, or do we have to wait a year?
Well, I think that the grounds in the ordinance, gives specific time periods. The comments that were made in connection with that hearing would suggest that he had a year. So. If directed to bring it back, I would certainly follow the council's direction.
Other comments? You want to care to make a motion?
I would move not to renew the Class B combination license for the sale of alcoholic beverages to TMH Properties LLC, Thomas Herbst, agent.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Doss?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Bonin?
Yes.
Killian?
Yes.
Galecki?
Yes.
Steiner?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That ends the hearing.
Thank you,
We'll
gentlemen.
take about a 2-minute break here while we rearrange the room. Came up for Jan, so she meets me. She's sleeping right here. Thank you. You leaving? I've been off the air and you're good there. Yeah, boy, it's gonna take how many months to pay that off?
Well, you got a closed session. That's right. Right there. Unless,
Doesn't matter, we'll figure out a place for you.
how inclusive of it.
Yes. I said. Just move over here to the big table.
Yeah. It's not all that it's cracked up to be.
That's true.
I sat down up there. Just looking around, I go, what the hell? Stuck in here. So I swipe chance.
Okay, it's time for some technical help here. All right.
Livingston.
Okay.
Next time, just bump it.
Seen you go through. I didn't know it yet then.
Tiffany wants to buy new cameras. Could have them on all walls, yeah. did that in my last city. It was actually pretty convenient. Yeah.
Where are we at?
Yeah, I'm not very technically oriented.
Not even close.
Okay.
Get the duct tape.
Okay, vision clearance, here it is.
Okay, are we back on? Great. Okay, we're going to continue on with the meeting. We move on to two public hearings that we have. The first is for ordinance 12-19, amending section 22.09, paren A, regarding vision clearance in intersections. When we do public hearings, we'll start with a staff presentation, public statements in favor, against, and in general as submitted by the public, council discussion, a motion to close the public hearing, and common council action. So the first ordinance regarding vision clearance at intersections, staff presentation, please.
Okay, we're proposing some changes to section 22.9A of the zoning ordinance. That section deals with basically preventing obstructions, either structures or fences, other improvements to property that would be located on a corner that may obstruct the vision of motorcycle traffic, pedestrians, etc., on the intersection, so that it doesn't cause any traffic problems. We were proposing a couple of changes to this code to address some issues that have come up. The first one is with the recently adopted downtown design standards. That section of the ordinance basically encourages buildings in the downtown area to be built right up to the corner, up to the property line, to match the historic nature of the downtown area. That is in direct conflict with the whole concept of keeping that corner open. So we wanted to make sure that those two ordinances aren't in conflict with each other. So the proposed change basically says that the vision clearance requirements do not apply wherever those design standards are in effect. So those decisions as far as new structures would be made following those guidelines. The other thing that I wanted to address were, I think, a couple of weaknesses in the ordinance. As it's written right now, it doesn't take into consideration whether it's a controlled intersection or not. All intersections are treated the same, and I think that's a weakness in the intersection. For an example, the intersection of Main and Chestnut Street, you've got Steve's Pizza building there and the Livingston State Bank. Both of those buildings would be in violation of the current ordinance. I don't know if anybody has ever had an issue with the vision at that intersection as far as being able to see when to go or not, and it's not an issue because it's a four-way stop. We've got a similar situation, Main and four-way signal. We've got a similar situation at Main and Water. That old brick house on the corner is in violation of that ordinance, and again, that's never been an issue because it's a four-way stop sign. But if you go, at least until now, you went north of block from there, Water and Mineral, the old Heiser storage building there was a major problem trying to see around that to get out on Water Street. And the difference obviously is the traffic on Water Street is not stopping at that location. So this takes that into consideration. If it's a controlled intersection, the requirements are different. Actually, there are no requirements as proposed for clearance there. But if it is not a controlled intersection, then there is a requirement for setbacks. And the amount of that setback depends on the speed that the traffic would be traveling on that street. So that, I think, is a better solution for solving the problem that is at hand at those intersections. So the proposed changes would make those modifications to the ordinance that I described. Any questions?
Thank you. No one has indicated a desire to offer a public statement in favor, nor against, nor in general. Council discussion.
Comment, that particular building, that intersection, that building's coming down, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
So that'll,
But I think that's a good example of
right, okay.
why we need the ordinance. But that particular problem solved in a different way.
And what about a block north of that, the Furnace and Water Street? When you're coming from the west on Furnace, you can't really see south on Water. Is that?
That house is coming out.
That house is coming down, and that hillside is going to be graded back to improve that slope.
Are there any other problem intersections, Joe, within town?
Well, there are other areas that would be non-conforming to the ordinance, but this would basically address future construction or future improvements. We have had instances in the past where we've required the removal of shrubs or trees that have blocked vision. This would also apply to that type of a situation.
Other questions?
How does the corner of Adams and Chestnut fit into this proposal?
Adams and Chestnut?
Adams Chestnut is the recycling place, the B1 zoning that was voted in as far as recycling metals
Right,
by OE Gray.
right.
There's no stop on the right turn.
Yeah, I mean, it would be treated as a intersection that does not, the traffic does not stop under this ordinance.
But a right turn doesn't have any kind of vision impedance anyway, does it?
No.
But what I'm asking is there enough vision when you go in toward OE Gray, looking to the left and turning? You have to wait to get to the corner almost to see down the road. I'm asking, does that fit into this?
Well, I mean, that intersection is subject to the ordinance, whatever the ordinance would
No,
apply
I'm-
at that
I'm asking.
intersection.
I don't think that intersection would apply, because if you're heading north on Chestnut and going to turn left onto Adams Street, you have a protected turn. The traffic from the right has a stop sign, and the traffic from the left has a stop sign. The same thing with
Correct.
turning right. It's no stop, it's protected. You can see what's coming.
Yeah.
But it is a bad corner.
Well, I'm not gonna argue with you there.
Yeah.
We'd probably do it differently if we were gonna do it over
Yeah.
again.
And I face semis in my lane of traffic, so. Thank
That,
you.
that's a different
That's a
issue
different issue.
than vision.
Other questions or comments or discussion? Or motion to close the public hearing?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second,
The motion and second to close the public hearing. Roll call vote, please.
Doss?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Bonin?
Yes.
Killian?
yes.
Pilecki?
Yes.
Steiner?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Action.
I move to approve the changes to Chapter 22 zoning code regarding vision clearance at intersections. Second.
The motion is second. Roll call vote, please.
Doss?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Bonin?
Yes.
Killian?
Yes.
Pilecki?
Yes.
Steiner?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The second item tonight under public hearings is ordinance 12-20, amending section 22.12 paren B regarding non-conforming structures. Staff presentation, please.
Okay, Wisconsin just passed a new law, 2011 Wisconsin Act 170. It requires a change to zoning regulations. Specifically, it states that ordinances cannot prohibit or limit, based on cost, the repair, maintenance, renovation, or remodeling of non-conforming structures. This law, I think, went into effect in April, end of April. Based on that new law, we had to take a look at our zoning ordinance to make sure our ordinance was in compliance with the new statutes regarding non-conforming structures. So we're making a change to bring that into compliance with the new law. We're also modifying the wording slightly in B4 regarding the type of damages that can be caused to a non-conforming structure. And that's just, again, to make the wording match what is in the state statute. So it brings it into compliance. Based on that, I would recommend approval of the proposed code change. Any questions?
I do have a question, Joe. When we discussed the overlay district, one of the issues that I was concerned about was making a current investment property non-conforming if the overlay district
Correct.
will this also apply then to the overlay district?
This would apply to any non-conforming structure.
And so we don't have to actually add that to the overlay district language, or?
Correct. We do not have to.
Other questions? Thank you. There were no requests for public statements in favor, against, or in general council discussion.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
A motion and a second to close the public hearing. Roll call vote, please.
Doss?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Bonin?
Yes.
Killian?
Yes.
Delecky?
Yes.
Steiner?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Council action.
Motion to adopt ordinance, ordinance 12-20, repealing and recreating section 22.12, parent B regarding non-conforming structures.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Doss?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Bonin?
Yes.
Killian?
Yes.
Delecky?
Yes.
Steiner?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 5 tonight is consideration of the consent calendar. The following items may be approved on a single motion and vote. Due to their routine nature or previous discussion, please indicate if you'd prefer separate discussion and action. Item A is the minutes of the May 22nd, 2012 council meeting. B is the payment of bills. C, the May financial report. D, appointments to boards and commissions. Tonight, I'm appointing Marcia Kortz to the Friedenreich Animal Care Trust Fund. Jess Ryerson to the Parks, Forestry, and Recreation Committee. Gary Munson to the Plan Commission for the term ending 5/1/14. Bill Kloster to the Airport Commission. Cindy Tang and Mike Oles to the Redevelopment Authority Board. Licenses, we have the 1 and or 2 year operators licenses for premises licensed to traffic in fermented malt beverages and intoxicating liquors. The annual fermented malt beverage and intoxicating liquor license renewals, junk dealership, and item F, the street closing permit for West Irving Place from Court Street to Bonson Street on July 4th for the Veterans Honor Roll Memorial Dedication. Are there any items on which you'd prefer separate discussion and action?
Yes, I would request that E2 be separated.
Okay, thank you.
With that, I would move to approve the consent calendar with that exception.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Eileen?
Regarding the information for the annual fermented malt beverage and intoxicating liquor license renewals, there is a need to change one of the licenses. It was placed under Class B, the Stephen D. Noonan Platteville for premises at 1350 East Business Highway 151, Cinco de Mayo. It should have been placed under Class A. Because it was published as Class B, we cannot vote on that one this evening, so that will be removed. Obviously, the TMH properties would also not be approved because of our previous action. And all other licenses that are approved this evening would be subject to all inspections. I wouldn't make that motion. Said it was in motion?
She made a motion.
The motion would be to, yes, to remove the,
Second.
yeah, the Noonan one and,
Are you clear on what those are, Jan?
Yeah.
Okay.
And who seconded?
Dick did. Okay, good. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that?
That Stephen B. Noonan license goes to a Class A combination beer and liquor or a Class A beer.
Class A beer and liquor.
So it's a Class A beer and liquor.
and we will be addressing that at the June 26th meeting.
Okay. That'll have to come back since it wasn't noticed. Okay, any other comments on that? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Moving on tonight to citizens' comments, observations, and petitions, if any. And we ask that people please limit their comments to no more than 5 minutes. Rich Christensen, followed by Carolyn Schuler, followed by Michael Mayo. Please come forward to the...
Also, can I go first?
Oh, sure, if you want to while they're doing that, sure.
I have a question probably for Howard or possibly Chief McKinley on the Water Street project.
Okay.
I doubt I'll be able to, along with a bunch of my neighbors, get into the driveway tonight. And do you know, I mean, is it all right if we park on, say, Madison? I could not get in, or there are a whole lot of people. I couldn't see all the way down south, but there's huge mounds of dirt in front of everyone's properties tonight. So I parked, when I came home from work, I parked on Madison right across from Stan and Carol Wonderland and just walked through backyards.
I don't see a problem with,
If I leave my car there tonight, it won't get ticketed or towed.
As long as you're in a legal parking space, you should be fine.
Well, I don't know if it's legal. It's on the street. It's just on Madison. I mean, it's, no one can go beyond that
I would have to
point.
look at that.
I mean,
Can you maybe talk to us after and we can look at it
Okay,
quickly?
and I mean, I assume I'm not the only one that has
I'm just
this issue.
wondering if it's signed for only one side of the street there.
I can't remember off the top of my
I
head.
mean, as long as you're in what is a legal parking space, you'll be fine.
Well, I don't know, I'll just be on the street, that's all, on Madison. And then walk through the backyards.
They might get you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'd also like to announce, Arlene Sis, who's on the Stone Cottage Committee, she could not be here tonight, so she has asked me to leave these flyers here at the desk for anybody to pick up who's interested. It is the Grant County Historical Society. It is their 175th anniversary of the Roundtree Mitchell Stone Cottage. It is Sunday, June 24th at the cottage from 1 till 4. And again, feel free to take the flyers on the table. And also, one more thing, I want to urge everybody to walk or to run over to Roundtree Gallery sometime before July 1. I know I'm prejudiced. It's a quilt exhibit, landscape art quilts. There are 40 of them by 2 landscape artists, one from Madison, Natalie Sewell, and the second one is Nancy Zeman from Beaver Dam. You might know Nancy from Public TV, Sewing with Nancy. These 40 landscape quilts are out of this world amazing. I've been to the exhibit twice, and I've been a quilter for 25 years, and I don't know how they did that. They look like oil paintings from a distance. Anyway, they are incredible. So I urge anyone to get there before July 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rich Christensen, sorry about that. If you'd state your name and address, please, and then, of course, please limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes.
Richard Christensen. I live at 10 South 3rd Street here in Platteville. And I would like to bring something to the attention of the Common Council. It concerns the parking permits that were created due to the construction of Roundtree Commons. And what has happened is not what the Common Council approved. I don't think the Common Council would approve if they had knowledge of what has taken place. Yesterday I came to City Hall because I felt something was just not right concerning the parking permits. And Jan Martin, the city clerk, was very helpful in providing the information that I asked for. I looked at ordinance number 1203, which created the parking permits and was approved and adopted by the Common Council on January 10th. And I looked at ordinance number 1213, which amended the parking permits and was approved and adopted by the Common Council on April 24th. What has happened is that the city has eliminated downtown parking by requiring parking permits far from Roundtree Commons and outside the area identified and circled on the map. And the Common Council didn't approve this. At the May 31st parking meeting, a Mound City Bank employee asked a question about parking permits being required outside the area identified on the map. I don't think that question was answered. One conclusion that was reached in the downtown Platteville parking and traffic flow analysis was that 24-hour parking is deficient. I don't think that finding in that study is disputed. And although the Common Council did not approve it, the city has essentially eliminated that type of parking for more than 50 vehicles. I wrote a letter to the editor on June 2nd. It didn't make it into last week's paper, but it should be in tomorrow's Platteville Journal. That letter is fine, but I do know things today that I did not know on June 2nd. I have just a couple of questions. In the city manager's May 10th letter to property owners, he wrote, "After a few meetings, we laid out a proposal to the City Plan Commission and the City Council." My first question is, who is we? And my second question is, why has the city eliminated needed downtown parking without Common Council approval? I don't understand how this happened. I don't understand why this happened. I don't think this just accidentally happened. Do you have any answers? Do you have any questions?
Are there signs in the wrong place, do you think?
What 50 spaces were eliminated? I don't know what that would be.
Well,
Councilman Delecky?
Yeah.
Or Council President Delecky, at this point, I'd like to make an announcement that the RDA is hosting a public open house to both share information and gather information as it relates to downtown parking this coming Monday, the 18th of June at 5:30 in the community room of the Mound City Bank Motor Branch. At that meeting, we will have maps of the current downtown parking and have identified those spaces which are public, those spaces which are privately owned, and also have identified on those the spaces that are 15-minute, 2 to 4, up to 2 hour, 2 to 4, and 24-hour. I think those are the 5 designations. We will also have available at that meeting maps that show the parking regulation that has been enforced or enacted through these ordinances that comes to Pine Street. So Mr. Christensen is right. The ordinance actually comes to Pine Street, and Mr. Christensen is also right that parking spaces that formerly were overnight parking spaces, particularly parking spaces on Roundtree Avenue that are up the hill, I guess I'd say, from the McGregor Plaza are now determined to be parking permit required. And so I believe that we will see that information. So just to know that the RDA, the Redevelopment Authority, has been meeting on this and is hosting this meeting to gain information and to share information that's available with the goal of developing a proposal relative to downtown parking.
What is the date again on that?
Monday, June 18th, and that's this coming, or is that this coming Monday?
At what time?
5:30, Mound City Bank, Motor Branch, and I believe a notice was distributed to the paper.
In the meantime, are there signs that are posted limiting parking outside the normal range as indicated by the map that we approved? Because you indicated you thought this was beyond what the council intended, and what I'm asking is, obviously lots of signs were posted around Roundtree Commons limiting on-street parking except for permit. Do those signs extend further than what our ordinance said they should extend?
Yes, because there's nothing in the ordinance about Roundtree Avenue, the street Barb just mentioned.
I would ask the city manager and or Department of Public Works Director to check into that and find out if we've missigned anything.
I'd be happy to look into it. I can tell you what I believe has happened is that the map shows a particular area that is not spelled out in text within the ordinance. And we can certainly get that spelled out in text so that they both match.
Please look into that.
Yep, will do.
That's not the point that I'm trying to make. It's not necessarily the approval, it's the elimination of parking.
Well,
and the
my
problems.
question with that was, if it's gone too far and eliminated them where it's not listed in the ordinance, then it's an easy fix. Fix the signs. See what I'm saying?
Fix the signs?
Well, if the signs extend further than they should, then we need to remove the signs if it's not listed in the ordinance.
Well, would that be a permanent removal of those signs?
Well, until and unless the council changes the parking ordinance, which could happen any year, any time. But what you said is that what had happened was not what the council intended. So I've asked the city manager and the
Not what the
Department of
council
Works protect
approved. I don't know what you intended.
Well, I've asked them to check into this because you've indicated some concern that this may not be accurate, and so I want them to go back and
Well,
check and see.
you know, there's no question that those streets aren't listed in the ordinance, and they are signed with, you know, permit parking signs of different types. And I really want to make the council aware about the number of parking spaces this is eliminating for downtown residents.
Thank
So
you.
the 50 parking places you were referring to.
I'm estimating
we're
how many
just estimating those streets. That
how
you
many
would
cars I see parked
be
there.
approximately 50 slots.
Well, I think, you know, that analysis, the parking analysis that was done, you know, you've got 24 slots that are just parked behind McGregor Plaza that park perpendicular to the street, if you've ever been up there and know what it looks like. And then you've got, you know, all the streets, the additional parking on the streets where people would parallel park on Roundtree, on Mitchell, on Bailey, you know, and if the downtown residents don't have that available to them, where are they gonna go? You're gonna have a big mess when people start coming back in August and September.
Okay. Thank you.
So I encourage you to come on Monday night, 5:30, now it's
Thank
in the
you.
bank.
Carolyn Schuler.
State your name and address.
Good evening, Carolyn Schuler, 160 Stonebridge Road in Platteville. I'm here tonight wearing the hat of the director of the library. I wanted to make a short announcement, and we are closed this Friday for staff in service as approved by our board. And we have announced it in the papers, and I'm announcing it here, and we have a number of signs out. It's on our website, etc. But my main purpose is to just share some news with you, and that it's not our tradition to speak on behalf of the library board members whose terms have expired. However, this month at our meeting, we had one member who has served as the superintendent of schools appointee for 25+ years, and that is Jan Baker. She's retiring from the school district, and she's no longer eligible to be that appointee. She's not able to be with us tonight because she's at the university being honored with other school district retirees. But Jan not only served the Platteville Public Library and served us well, she served as a board representative to the Southwest Wisconsin Library System. And for 25 years, her dedication and her knowledge and her sharing of information with us is unparalleled. So I wanted to publicly thank Jan for her dedicated service, and just to let you know the good news. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Mayo. State your name and address.
Michael Mayo, 375 South Chestnut Street. I could also be reached at mvmayo.platt@hotmail.com. First of all, I have to request of the city manager. I understand the parking permits were mailed out. I never received any parking permit for my home. Secondly, I understand and I realize the fact that I did go ahead and announce my candidacy for city council some time ago. I really did not understand that the campaigning has already started. I would like to suggest that to the rest of the council members who I'm going to be running against, that this election be clean, that we're not going to take pot shots at anyone's health or anyone's well-being. That we work to develop something to benefit the community and not for any vendetta that anyone may have against me. This is a community. We all would be serving the community, and it would be in our best interest to remember that. Because if pot shots are taken against me, I will go ahead and fire back with any and every available arsenal I have, including legal. Do I make myself understood?
Is this what you come up here for tonight, is to threaten us then?
I'm not threatening you. I'm asking you point blank
Sounds
to
like it.
develop a clear and clean campaign so that we work together for the benefit of the community. And I'm also just stating in general that if I have any repercussions or any disparaging remarks that cannot be proven, then there will be repercussions, that's all. Not threatening anyone. If you so feel it as a threat, then obviously, then maybe you have done something already. I don't know.
Why do you feel like something's been done?
I'm just saying it.
Let's just let him make his comment and move on in the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Delecky. I think Mr. Delecky may even know what I'm talking about. Because, is your back feeling better today?
Have you any more comments?
Because last time I was here, you were telling everybody how bad your back was and that you may have a surgery between L3 and S1. Very similar to the one I had. Only one thing that's not understood. My problem is not the surgery, which I have recovered from. It's from the failed back surgery that I have. And that's why I take medication, and that's why I walk with a cane. And that can be proven. Not your allegation.
I made no allegations.
Thank you.
Just let it go.
Wow, let's move right on. Under reports tonight, committee reports, Commission on Aging.
Have none. Just the minutes of the meeting I attended are in.
Great. Under other reports, we have the May Airport Financial Report.
I have a question on that.
Okay.
We made a loan through the airport for the purpose of building a hangar, rebuilding one that was not properly built. I would like to find out the status of that loan as far as what's left to pay on it and so forth. I would appreciate that.
I believe it's 284,000. Is that accurate, Dwayne? The airport fund, if you look under liabilities, it'll say airport short-term loan. Or maybe it's the advance from the general fund. Dwayne, can you clarify that?
I'd have to look that up and get back to you next time.
Okay.
Anyway, we could find out the status of that.
Yes, certainly.
Eileen, do you have anything off the top of your head that you can update us on in terms of the runway expansion? I don't think they've started yet, have they?
No, I think that they're in the preliminary stages yet, but it will be shortly.
Thank you. Item 2 under other reports is the May Water and Sewer Expenditures and Revenues Report. Item 3 is the May City Attorney Itemized Statement. And item 4 is the Department Progress Reports. Are there any items there in which you have comments or questions? I wanted to ask one question here. Is it possible for us to get a link on the home page, on the first page, that would go to the project update report that Howard produces for us in this packet? It might make it easier for people to follow through and find out where we're at with projects, what the timelines are.
Yep.
Things like that.
Yep, I'll get that done.
Probably the number one question I get asked is, when is this going to happen? When is that going to happen? And of course, I read his report, but people might like to have direct access to it too. Any other items there for comment? Okay, moving on to action items. Item 8 tonight is contract 7-12 sidewalk repair. This project involves repair of sidewalk areas throughout the city. The council approved a budget of $20,000. 2 bids are open, one from Longer Brothers, the bid of $13,311.70, and from J.T. Concrete Construction LLC with a bid of $10,483.25. And the city's also entered into a contract with Safe Step LLC for $7,000 for the third year to grind edges of sidewalk that stick up. One question I had is, do we have a location, or where's J&T Concrete Construction from?
They're from Livingston.
Livingston, thank you.
Is there a reason the bid sheet wasn't included? It's common that we have the bid sheet included.
At the first time, I didn't have the bid sheet prepared, and I apologize for not having that for this time. But we have the two bids listed in the report itself. So I apologize for not getting that to you.
I would move to approve contract 712 sidewalk repair and award the contract to J&T Concrete Construction at a bid price of $10,483.25. And also contract with Safe Step in the amount of $7,000 to grind edges of the sidewalk.
Haven't you already done the latter?
We've already done that part.
Oh, you have? All right. You want me to amend the motion? Contract 712, award to J&T Concrete Construction at the bid price of $10,483.25.
Should be fine.
Second to the motion.
A motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Doss?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Bonin?
Yes.
Killian?
Yes.
Delege?
Yes.
Steiner?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item B tonight under action is a resolution approving the 2011 Compliance Maintenance Annual Report. This is for the wastewater management activities of our water treatment plant during the 2011 calendar year. And interesting thing about it is if you look at the back, it's graded as if this was a college class, and the grade on a grade point average formula is 4.0, no errors. Problem with that is it's only going to get worse. Can't get better.
Would be an A+.
Okay, well,
You've got perfect,
okay, maybe an A+.
I would move to approve the compliance maintenance annual report with congratulations to the employees who maintain and get such a good report year after year from what I've read.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Doss?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Bonin?
Yes.
Killian?
Yes.
Delege?
Yes.
Steiner?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item C tonight is Stonebridge Road repairs. Stonebridge Road was originally scheduled for reconstruction in 2012, and we've kind of put this off for a long time. Howard has listed a number of options by which we might address the Stonebridge Road, including from a simple overlay at estimated cost of $48,000 to one that goes further than that and will install new 2-inch asphalt surface on the existing base at a cost of estimate of $62,000. And a third one, which is a full excavation with new gravel base and 2 inches of asphalt, which would estimated to cost us $80,000, and the lifespan estimates are 3, 5, and 10 years for those three. But none of those address the water and sewer issues nor the storm culvert issue. So we try to figure out what we're going to do with this.
I have a question. Do I understand that this had previously been on the 2012 project list?
That's correct.
And so now as I look at the CIP for 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016, this street doesn't appear anywhere. So how did it drop from being a project that was going to be done in 2012 to one that doesn't now even exist on a list for the next 5 years?
It was removed all the way to the unfunded list because I was looking at other other projects at the time, trying to keep with our other project lists, like Broadway and some of the other streets that we have.
When we put projects on the list, it's my understanding that they go on the list based on a rating scale. So are you telling me that this project is now better rated than it used to be?
No.
I just find that it's interesting that it doesn't appear at all now in the CIP, yet it was in the CIP and was taken out because we did a different project, and so it just got displaced. Doesn't seem, now, my understanding is this year we're doing 2nd Street, Washington Street, and Spring Street. Are we doing anything on Jewett Street?
This year, yes.
So we're doing all 4 of the projects that are on the 2012 CIP list.
Yes.
Jewett, 2nd, Washington, and Spring.
Yes.
And next year we can expect that we would see, we don't know. So is there any reason that this project can't be on for next year if it was on for this year? And then was
There's no reason why it can't be. We can set them up any way we like.
It could very well be if that's what you want.
I would think we would just make it part of our budget deliberation.
For 2013.
At least talk about
Right.
it at that time,
Right.
instead of making this decision here this evening.
Can we patch this thing till next year? Keep any
I'll
car
put,
from falling into a pothole and never getting out again?
We'll do what we can with gravel and such to keep it passable for the rest of this year, if that's what you desire.
There actually was, as I was reading this, what I thought was maybe a 4th option, which is, of course, pass this to next year, and I would say we need to put this at the top of our list for next year. But if you look above, about 40% of the way down the first sheet, it says the cost for all of what we had originally planned to do was $645,000, of which $245,000 was water and sanitary sewer replacements. That means $400,000 would have been dedicated approximately for road replacement. And it seems to me that if we put down a 3-inch asphalt on a new base, it's not as good as having curb and gutter, but on the other hand, it's not a normal street either. And since this one has avoided washing out for 40 years, there may be a way to really cut that cost down, get a new road in there, fix the water and sewer that we need to, and really knock the cost down here. We're starting to run into the problems of how we're going to fund everything as we go, and I think that might be something we should look at. Be a way to knock that in half in terms of price.
What is the condition of the water and sewer on that road?
There is old sanitary sewer for a portion of that street. There's actually no water for most of that street. They have a section of water main dead end that comes in from the north end off of Union Street and dead ends that way. And then they have extended long lines throughout that area to serve those buildings that are there. Our intent here was to eliminate that dead end by connecting Union Street to Main Street, and if possible, if we can get the easement from the property owner, I would like to also extend water to close the loop at the end of Fremont Street. It would improve flow and pressure in the entire area. It would also allow us to put fire hydrants in different locations on that road. Right now there's fire hydrant at Main Street, and there's a fire hydrant at the dead end line at the very end of the cul-de-sac that comes off of Union Street. I've been told by the fire department that they would encourage looping of that and additional hydrants for potential fire protection in that area. Those are some of the big things. Some of the issues that Mr. Delecky was talking about we can discuss in a little bit further during budget time if you wish, but we were looking at improvements to the storm sewer drainage feature through there. A few years back we did an an emergency repair under FEMA repairs a few years back. It's not what I would consider a permanent fix. I would prefer to do a more permanent fix, and along with curb and gutter and other amenities. But as I said, we could discuss that further during budget review time.
No action?
Yes.
If you'd like to fill out one of those forms there and pass it forward, that would be fine. Does council have any other commentary on this?
Myself, I prefer to wait until next year and do the whole project.
Yeah, rather than waste 48,000.
That's what I'd rather do, if we can keep it together.
Rather than spend 48,000 and
Seems like anything would be better than option one. Option three actually gives you 10 years at $8,000 per year. That's even better than option one. But think we should wait and see where we're at budget. Take this in consideration when we look at the total budget for the streets.
I think we should let it go till next year. I think we can find a way to do this in a cost-effective fashion, but do it better than just the slapdash method that some council will be dealing with shortly. Other comments? Jeff Fitzgerald has indicated he'd like to make a comment on this. Please come forward, state your name and address. And please limit your comments to 5 minutes.
My address is 885 Stonebridge Road, Apartment A. I understand your feelings. I don't know if you've been up and down the road or not. It's in very, very bad condition. The one thing I would ask, if anything else, I understand. There's one section that's about 20 by 60 that's actually mud, and there's probably 2-foot deep potholes. If nothing else, if you could just excavate and replace a gravel base in that bad area, that would make me very happy. And
Is that something we could do?
That's one of the things that I would be looking at is putting gravel in there to keep that one area solid, as solid as we can throughout the winter.
Can we just put a little blacktop over it just to make it?
I'll have to look at that. There's not a whole lot of blacktop to kind of adhere to it, so it's going to be tough to make that happen. But we'll work on that.
I'm willing to add some parking space to hold that into a spot for you, if that's helpful.
We can work on that.
Okay.
Based on the guidance as presented
think
by the council.
What you have here is a council that wants to solve this problem, and I think personally I will put this on my list of things I want done next year. So I can't speak for the rest of the council.
Okay, but can we just do this little black 20 by 60 blacktop area?
Well,
I
think Howard's got to have some way of maintaining the roads so that cars don't break their axles when they go through them, and I'm sure he will.
That's what we're doing.
This section is where the snowplows come through, and they're actually digging up the blacktop, and they'll just take the gravel out as quickly.
We'll do what we can with that. I can't promise tonight on how much we can do because of the condition of the road, but we'll do something with it.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. David Drury has also indicated he'd like to speak. Please come forward, state your name and address.
My name is David Drury. I live at 947 Stonebridge Road. I have lived at the end of Stonebridge Road my entire 25 years in Platteville. That road was about 14 years old when I moved there, and it served that community there very well up to the last 5 years when it started deteriorating, and now it's really shot. Looking at all the proposals, I understand your concern about the water and the sewers and things like that. I don't really think that's absolutely necessary. I do like the option 3, $80,000. That would restore the road to the way it was when I first moved there, and I suspect you're going to get a lot more than 10 years life out of it if you go with option 3. I would like it best if you could do it this year, because whatever they try to do on a patch basis is likely to just come apart this winter. That road is in such bad shape. And then maybe in February, a garbage truck will disappear in one of those potholes or something like that. Thank you very much.
Thank
Is there a motion? Okay. Thank you. Item D tonight is approving an easement with Alliant Energy. This is a utility easement across a parking lot. The Second Street reconstruction project includes relocation of existing electric and communication lines underground. Due to this process, many of the services of individual buildings have to be rebuilt and relocated. Some of this has to be brought in from behind, from Third Street, and so the request is for an easement underground rather than overhead. Excuse me.
I would move to approve the utility easement.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Doss?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Bonin?
Yes.
Killian?
Yes.
Delecky?
Yes.
Steiner?
Yes.
Becker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Under information and discussion items tonight, item A is an ordinance amending Chapter 33 of the Rental Code. This has been an ongoing discussion at a number of work sessions. The suggested changes are in red in the document, as well as at the end of it is some suggestions from Alderman Killian regarding some other possible changes, especially with regard to basic fees and so on.
I have a question. As I read through this revision, in section 3305, and I don't have a clue, in my information, it's page, where is it?
Page 8 on paper.
Okay, it's page 8 on paper, and in the, if anybody has the other, it's page 191. 3305, parent B, number 2. This talks about minimum standards for residential rental property and responsibilities of owner relating to the maintenance of the premises. And under parent B, it says all leases for dwelling units subject to this ordinance shall include in a lease or in a document attached to the lease the following language. I'm not so concerned about number 1, but number 2, it talks about maximum occupancy limits apply to this unit. Unless this unit is an approved rooming house, this unit may be occupied by no more than 4 unrelated persons or less, depending on the number and size of the bedrooms. And in fact, I would say that there should also, in this section, be a reference to the overlay district. Because now there is an overlay district that even if that could be a rental unit, and the maximum number of people that are allowed in that rental unit is 2. And there is no reference in this section to that newly enacted overlay district. So I believe that needs to be added in some way. Otherwise, it looks like this ordinance doesn't conform or comply with our information relative to an overlay district.
I think it's a good idea. Did you have any language you wanted to propose, or just? Okay.
I just noted that, I mean, I don't.
So maybe you do it all here, not just the
Yeah,
idea,
I
but give
didn't
us the
write
rest
any
of it too.
language. I'm just saying it, you know, when I read that, it said a maximum of 4, and we now have districts, or we at least have one district in town, an overlay district, that limits maximum occupancy in a rental structure to 2, regardless of the number of bedrooms.
How about this?
Size.
Units in the Arlo overlay district are limited to no more than 2 unrelated adults per unit.
I guess you guys, I mean, I don't.
There are about 3 definitions in that overlay district, so.
I think
Joe needs to take a look at that.
the easiest thing to do is just to reference the overlay zoning in this ordinance, so that whomever is researching it or looking at their lease could simply ask the landlord or look for a copy of the overlay. No?
I think it needs to be explicit.
Yeah.
I think you ought to say what it is the limits are.
Okay.
I know that there's currently only one overlay district, but it still should be, I think, referenced in this.
Wait, yeah, I think the two unrelated adults is what it is. There's an exception for family, but family's related. And there was some other condition, I can't remember what it was, but I don't think that
would supersede this either.
We'll find it and get it in there.
Yeah. Other questions, comments, observations about the document?
Councilman Nichol, do you believe that these changes address the issue of the tenant versus or the responsibility of the tenant as it relates to these things as well as the owner? I know the last time we had this discussion about tenant and owner and
I'm going to have to say, I don't know, because I've been gone for a week and I haven't had a chance to read this. But I assume that the language is in there that we discussed last time that would note that the tenant and the property owner are responsible for actions.
I'd like to comment about the citations. I thank the staff for providing the list of citations and giving the summary at the end. And the range of citations per property is from 1 to 39. And so that's about 40 properties and about 3 per property. And there's a total of 41 properties or owners listed in this list of citations. What I find also we need to be looking at is the list of violations. Violations where a citation is not given, but the violation may be occurring over and over again. And this is what's happening, occurring over and over again for a relatively small number of properties, maybe 25, 30, and the city staff spends the time mailing out things and taking pictures, and the people comply, and then, so it's time spent, time lost. So it's more than citations.
Are you perhaps asking how many letters we send out?
No, I'm just saying that it's not giving the violations. We're spending our time on violations as well as citations. And how can we do something to improve, decrease number of violations? They don't go to the citation stage. You just do it
You were
over and
asking
over
a
again.
question of the council, not asking for information.
Well, staff and council. In summary, it's a matter of doing work over and over again for a relatively low number of properties. Then the other thing I brought up was under 33.31, it says under A, the city may impose sanctions upon the owner and/or the tenant of a residential rental property which receives multiple citations or violation notices. And I have not found yet what is meant by multiple. And I realize that one of the recommendations is to take out the point system, but you need to replace the point system with some means of being objective as far as defining what is multiple citations and violations.
Is it multiple more than one?
Multiple more than one. Okay, if they get 2, do we do it 2 then? Is 2
Would
the
you rather
number?
replace it with 2 or more instead of multiple?
No, not 2 or more. You might go to 20. You have to have a number.
you want a concrete number. You want it to say, the city will impose sanctions upon an owner of a residential property who receives more than 1 citation. Is that what you wanted to say?
No, I'm just asking the staff, what's the number?
Can we in turn ask you what the number should be?
Well, it doesn't say we will impose, it says we may impose.
Yeah.
I think that Ken isn't on the may versus will. He's saying, what does multiple mean in terms of citations? Does multiple mean 2? Does multiple mean 4? Does multiple mean 6? I think,
Yes.
is that your question, Ken?
That's the question.
The question has to do with the word multiple, not the word may.
And the answer is yes. It means 2, it means 4, and it means 6.
Yeah,
So
okay.
every step you could have sanctions imposed.
Okay, but what is your scale? What's your standard? What are you setting up? With the point system, we had something set up, but with this, what you're suggesting here, I don't see it set up. Joe shaking his head no.
Whatever the council would like me to put in there.
Okay. Okay.
Well, it references a property management plan, license suspension. I think what you've done is you created a list of tools that staff can use at their discretion when multiple violations occur at one property. And I think maybe the issue is the discretion. Do you wish to have this dictated in the ordinance, or provide staff the opportunity to use their discretion as issues come up?
Well,
Maybe that's what you're asking.
should this be in the ordinance or could this be in a policy? Which way should it be?
What would you like?
Well, aren't we trying to let the staff have a little, use a little judgment?
Yes, I'm
Instead of
trying
spelling-
to find out what their judgment is.
Well,
It depends.
the judgment will be formulated based upon the situation that's presented.
But multiple has a lot of meaning.
That's
Could be
That's
two,
what we want.
could be 10.
Ken, we
could be
want a lot of
20.
meetings.
So
Other,
it's too vague.
if you spell every little tiny thing out, eventually you'll end up with a rental ordinance that's that thick. And no one will be able to understand it.
I disagree
Ken
with
and
that
I sat
statement.
on, Ken and I sat on the task force to redo the rental ordinance, and, which was then rescinded. But I understand Ken's concern, and the concern was that staff can have discretion, but that sometimes can also lead to some issues. So by having a definition of multiple, that makes it more clear.
What number do you think would be good?
You know, I think that to say that the council should make that decision when the staff has the information about the landlords or the other property owners who are not landlords who may have multiple violations. I would prefer that the staff look at, as Ken said, the properties that seem to be in violation more consistently and give us a number. I don't really think it's the council's position. We don't write the citations, we don't write the violations. I think staff needs to give us some direction.
About a year ago, I asked that question of a staff member, and there were about 25 properties that had 4 or more violations. So the information is there.
Then why don't we say 4 or more? If that seems to be the number that Ken, you said 25 properties had that issue, then maybe that's the number, 4 or more. But it
But
sounds to me like what we wanted to
my
do is we
point-
want the staff to exercise their judgment so we can come back later and say we don't like the numbers you've chosen.
I
And that
would like
doesn't seem fair.
staff to give us their recommendation. To me, that's one of the purposes of staff, to look at things more closely and bring them to the council and give us recommendations.
Can we say that staff would like the flexibility to issue sanctions with 2 or more citations?
But again, when you say 2 or more,
That's right.
if you get to 10 for somebody, that fits, doesn't it? That's 2 or more.
I know what you're saying is that if one property has 3 and they cite them for 3 violations and the other one gets to go to 7 before they cite them, we're gonna say that's not fair. But then let's pick out a number.
I think there's
And-
some other
and-
factors too, like cooperation. I mean, we'd like to see people who have multiple citations put forth an effort to start cooperating with what is they're violating. And if an owner is purposely avoiding talking to the city, then that has got to factor into this somehow. I mean, there's some property owners that are more responsive than others, and
And,
I don't
and
know.
frankly, I think that there are some violations that perhaps are more
important.
serious.
serious than others. I mean, you know, like if you have 3 violations for not mowing your grass in the summer, you know, versus some of the other things, I feel that the staff needs to have the discretion, and it should say, may issue sanctions based on after multiple violations, because maybe it only takes 2 for some, because you would sanction them, but if it's because they didn't mow their grass twice this summer and then they get a violation for not shoveling their sidewalk, versus if they had some kind of nuisance party and destroyed some stuff and were found guilty in a court. I mean, I think, you know, the staff needs to have some latitude to decide, to make those decisions. Because if you just say 3, then if it's 3 lawn mowing, that's as bad as 3 nuisance parties. I'm not sure that we'd all agree with that later. I think we give them latitude. And
Other comments?
I'm not promoting the point system, but I'm just saying the point system took that into account. It gave points according to what the different violations were.
Other comments about the rental code suggested changes?
fees are not going to be included in the ordinance, is that right? Are the fees included, or will that be in a separate?
That will be chapter 110, I believe. It'll be separate. It's a separate section of the code.
When you say fees, do you mean forfeitures?
No, fees for the license fees and stuff like that. Those aren't included in the code, are they?
This code just kind of references to a fee structure as adopted by the council from
Okay.
time to time, and that's
On time
usually
to
done
time,
as a
right.
separate action, so that when we do adjust those fees, we don't have to go through the ordinance amendment process.
And I certainly, I mean, Ken has some interesting ideas here, and I think when you talk about it, I don't know we want to tie it to the rental code itself, because
That's
that might
what I
just
was-
complicate things. He's got some interesting incentive ideas in here, and I'm not certain they're exactly the right ones from my point of view, but I think they're a move in the right direction, if not, so.
The city manager, Larry, in your letter, you talked about the postcard system. You're working on that?
Yes. Actually, Joe's working on that.
Joe,
We've got it
okay, Joe's working on
all
that.
almost ready.
My thought about that is that the city could supply the postcard costs, but I think the cost of mailing those things out and the cost of sending a certified letter to the landlord, those costs should be borne by the inspection service, because that gives them, that provides more incentive for them to get things done as far as getting the inspection done on time. I don't think the city should be taking on any more costs as far as the postcard system. The city will do as they do now, supply the database as far as the list of rental properties, give that to the inspection service, and then they have to go out and make sure that people get the inspection done, and then turn in the inspection form completed to the city, and then the city takes over. So the city should not be having to send out certified letters to get the inspection done. That should be the work of the inspection service. We don't want to have any more work costs to the city as far as the program from that particular part, the postcard system. That's what I believe on that. And then I think there should be some penalties for not getting the inspection done soon enough. Proposal is here for 90 days. If after 45 days they haven't set up an appointment yet, set up a fine of $25, $50. Something like this to have an incentive for people to get it done on time. And then when they get to expiration, then you start charging on a daily basis. I think the last thing I want to say is that as far as what I've presented in the way of incentive program, the purpose also is to encourage people to improve their properties on their own. encourage them to improve on their own. And the incentive needs to be large enough, great enough, so that they have the desire, for lack of a better word, the goal to improve their properties and keep their properties improved. I do not agree with the idea of properties being getting an incentive because they're 20 years or less in age. I think this should be open to all the properties.
Okay.
So, those are my comments.
Any other comments about the rental code? Okay, moving on to item B, ordinance amending the official traffic map. This is no parking on the east side of Washington Street. Staff recommends the movement of parking to the other side of the street to allow for better flow.
There's going to be sidewalk on the west side only, so we felt that you should put the parked cars right there next to where the sidewalk is going to be, so that people can get out and use the sidewalk.
Have the property owners been notified along that street that we
Yes.
are considering
Yes.
a change?
There was a public meeting.
We've had public meetings with the construction, and that was part of that, and we've given instructions to mail this out to folks on that street as well. Many of those are rental properties, but we've sent that to owners and whoever is still there renting.
Anything else? Item C is an ordinance amending the official traffic map. This is a no parking here to corner section on Adams Street where Elm Street intersects.
This is another one that has come to light with some issues at the corner of Adams and Elm Street. Spoke with the owner of that property on the corner, and he is asking that we continue having at least one parking stall immediately to the west of that driveway, but that would eliminate parking for about for a little over 2 stalls, about 48 feet from Elm Street back. And I think that that's a reasonable compromise, and it should allow for a good sight distance for people at that corner.
What property owner are you? Which corner?
We're talking about the northeast corner
The one where the house is now being constructed?
where
in
the house is being constructed,
In the
yes.
Vision Triangle?
Yes.
That's,
Just like the filling station is in the triangle.
I mean, but in that corner, the house is in the Vision Triangle,
Which is why we need the ordinance.
right?
yeah.
It was in the Vision Triangle. It's like, and so it's that
Vision.
property owner now that's requested no parking on that side of the street?
No, there have been numerous people who have asked for no parking along there. During the construction process, they've had a number of vehicles parked all the way up to the corner of Adams and Elm, and it's made it very difficult for people to see around there to be able to get out safely. And we've had discussion with that property owner, and he thought that's a good idea to restrict parking, but he asked that we only restrict it enough so that we could leave one parking stall as far east as possible along his property. So we're talking about 48 feet back from the intersection. And that should give enough sight distance for people to see vehicles coming around that corner.
This would make a lot of people happy.
I had 4 people talk to me about that, and that was unbidden, so a lot of people are anxious to see this happen.
Yeah.
I just go a different way. Anything else on that? Item D is ordinance and resolution to deal with tree cleanup of private trees falling on public property.
This is an issue that we have had occasionally. A lot of times a tree or a very large limb from a tree that is currently on private property falls onto a street, sidewalk, or other public property, the city ends up removing the hazard out of the street or sidewalk at city costs. And at this point, there's really no incentive for the property owner to maintain their trees properly. And so what we're recommending is to recoup the costs of us removing those hazards from public property.
Question: how much time is the homeowner allowed, or the tenant allowed, to cut up the tree or branch before the city steps in? Any time on that, or depends on the weekend or the situation, or what's?
It depends on the situation. If the branch falls on a sidewalk and there are other sidewalks or available means, we may allow them to take care of it themselves. But if it falls into a street where it interferes with traffic, we're going to have to clear it pretty quickly.
I understand that. So I could go out and put the tree at the curb, the tree limb at the curb, and the city picks it up and chips it, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
So what happens when we have a big storm?
Yeah, that's.
I mean, it's a healthy tree. I mean, you're referring here to a tree that isn't healthy and saying, okay, well, they didn't take care of their tree. But what if it has nothing to do with the health of the tree and the tree just falls down like it's happened in a lot of storms? Are you proposing that we start charging everybody in the city then?
Yes.
That's a big difference. That's a big change in policy from what we currently have. As a
And
it's a
and
cost.
then an additional $50 just to administer the fee. So not only are we gonna charge to do it, but then we're gonna charge them an additional $50 just because they had the unfortunate thing happen that a tree limb fell down during a storm, and so now they get charged $50 plus the cost of cleaning up the limb. I don't know. I'd like to know how much expense this has been. If this is something that happens occasionally, it seems to me like there would be other ways to handle this. If we have a city forester, I mean, are we telling people that their trees are dead and need to be removed? Are we doing any other thing? I mean, like Steve said, I think this is a big change in policy. If you're going to say, if there's a storm, if your tree is fine, and now all of a sudden a branch falls out and it costs you money, plus $50, and you have been taking care of your trees, I don't know. I'd like to know how much this has been costing, and if there aren't other ways that we can address dead and dying trees that become nuisances.
I think the key here is to try to create a disincentive for a landowner to say, I'm just gonna not worry about my tree, and if something happens, the city will clean it up. I think you raise a good point in talking about the storm. I'm not sure, maybe what we need is the flexibility to say, unless the Public Works Director declares a storm emergency, this fee shall be assessed. But much like you have a snow emergency, if you had a major wind incident, it would likely impact multiple properties. We identified a problem at staff level that occasionally this is occurring, and this was our suggestion for a possible solution. If this is not something you're looking at, then we can amend it or change it or not pursue this. It's our job to bring forward the recommendations or the ideas to you.
Well, I like the basic idea. I think I brought this up before. What is the city forester doing, if anything, as far as identifying trees on private property that could be a hazard as far as falling on the sidewalk or falling on the street? Is anything done?
At this point, we don't have the staff resources. It's not
He has
resourced
the
to do
power.
that.
He has the authority.
You want the city forester going on private property assessing everyone's trees?
No, he has the power to say that that tree is likely to fall, the limb is likely to fall. That's really a help to the homeowner.
Well, I don't know. I'm not, I don't like this myself. So,
Okay.
I don't think it takes into consideration what happens when we have a storm. You're saying, it says here, you know, currently, there are cases when a dead or dying tree, okay, you wanna address that problem, fine, but I don't think, then by addressing that problem with this ordinance, now you create more problems. What are we gonna do during a storm? Now we gonna declare a storm emergency? I don't know, I think it's crazy.
I think we should continue to socialize the cost and privatize the benefit, just as you say.
I think I'm not gonna vote for this, no matter what you do, so you can do whatever you want.
Okay, anything else on that?
I think there's merit to it. I had one question for staff here. Whose tree is it if the tree grows over the property stake? Is it a private tree or a public tree?
We had to deal with that issue on one of the Kallenbach houses, didn't we?
You know, you could,
I mean, theoretically, if I understand the tree law right, if a branch hangs over into a tree is on one side of a property line and a branch hangs on to the other side, another lot, adjacent lot, that adjacent lot owner can trim that branch.
that's true.
That's what I understand.
That's not the question I'm asking. The question I'm asking is, the trunk of the tree is growing over the property stake. Now, is that a tree that is a private tree or a public tree?
I don't
If
know.
that tree falls down, who pays for the cleanup of that tree?
I don't know.
You don't know.
We'd
Off
have to
the
have a
top of my head.
surveyor establish where the exact center of the tree was and on whose property that center.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like
I
something
can
you'd
take
put
you
on a
to
law
a-
school quiz.
I can take you to an example of a tree growing over a stake.
I can too.
And my question is a good question. Is it a private tree or a public tree?
And I didn't ridicule the question. I just said I didn't have the answer.
Okay.
Okay.
Would this ordinance be something you wanna see on your next agenda, or do we have consensus that you don't wanna pursue it? I mean,
I think it's a good idea.
I do too, but Barb had a good question about, does this happen a lot, or?
we could put it on the next agenda, and if you take action, you can vote it down, or you can vote it up, whatever
I
you
can see
decide.
it come back.
Yeah. I have a lot of trees in my yard, big trees, but they're all in the back and they're nowhere near public property. So even in the event of a storm, it would be my responsibility because it's not gonna fall anywhere near a sidewalk or street. I do think Barb had a good question about, does this happen a lot?
Well, I think the statement was made, it happens occasionally, and so therefore the staff examined it. I don't think it's a issue that needs to be brought back personally.
If it's brought back, I want data with it.
Let's put it on just for fun. This has been great fun.
This include public alleyways?
Yep.
City maintains?
And sidewalks and bike trails, whatever the
And
city's.
In an alleyway, if tree limbs are protruding into the alleyway and they rub on vehicles.
We would have the right to trim it because it is a public way.
Okay.
$50 for it.
Okay. Shall we move on?
Okay.
Item E is the City of Platteville official map update. We've run across this before. We have to have an official map update so as to identify places for future development so that we don't have things in the ET that block future development processes.
You should have the map in your packet. Here's a larger version of it. It's a tool that the city can use for planning purposes. It's gone through a lot of the different commissions, water and sewer, planning commission, safe routes, et cetera. Forestry and Recreation Committee, and they've all recommended approval. We're looking at planning for future development. As development comes to the city, we want them to use this as their master planning tool on where streets, roads, parks, bike trails, things of that nature need to go. And that's what we're looking for.
Okay, and the map in our packet still does not show the route of the bypass around the north side of town?
Mine does.
They gave us a different map now.
Yeah, here you go.
The old one was truncated.
I thought that had been changed so that
We have
it
a new
was, so that you do have that.
Yeah.
It's been to the township too?
No, hasn't been changed.
I believe.
I don't see it, in- not in the packet that's in the,
Okay.
not in the packet that came electronically.
Not in
It's
the
showing up on
electronic
paper, but it
packet.
must be getting truncated when they put it in the electronic form somehow.
I don't know.
I don't know. I gave us, I don't know, I gave you updated, copy of the map.
At the very top of the map in the electronic packet is that little green circle. That you
Okay.
have out on the
Yes,
north.
I see what you're saying.
And it
cut it
doesn't
out.
go any farther. In fact, not all the little green circle is even in the electronic packet.
Well, we'll have to work with
Have to rescan that.
with our IT folks to try to figure out why that isn't happening. I can't explain it at this point.
I suggest that if this is something we're going to do, perhaps share this electronically with others, that then we might want to make sure that the electronic version actually reflects what we have.
Right, I'm sure it was an error. We certainly didn't do that on purpose.
Probably was a tree falling from a
Yeah, it's
private
probably
property onto a public one, and it
onto
knocked
a
that
public
part of the
right
map
away. It
off.
was a dead
I
tree.
did talk to the
in fact.
town.
It's a dead tree.
There was that other question about the township, and city manager said that he had talked to the township on that. I don't know
Town of Platteville.
if, the Platteville Township.
As far as the location of the road,
Yes, sir.
and they have no comment, they're not concerned?
Well, I also sent a copy with the bypass on it to the town clerk, along with the staff report, along with the notice of the public hearing at the next meeting.
And was there any public response?
Not yet.
Okay.
I called the town clerk and got on the agenda and attended the town board meeting and presented the map to the town board, as well as the state statutes giving us the authority to do the map, and they had no comments at that time, when I handed it out either.
But Belmont Township?
No, the only township I went to was the town of Platteville.
No, but did Joe send
No, I
it?
did not.
Is there a section, where's the town of Belmont?
Well, over the Lafayette County line.
Down here?
It's everything.
Oh, I was
Does
thinking-
Lafayette County also, has this been shared with Grant,
It's the line.
with the Grant County Highway Commissioner? And has it also been shared with
There's
the
the
Lafayette
trailer park
County
right
That's
Highway
what I'm most
Commissioner?
concerned about right here.
No, not
I
to my
have not,
knowledge.
I have not done that. I'm not sure what we were able to do. I
No.
know that Joe has shared it with the township only, as far as I know.
Right.
Just Platteville Township.
I don't believe there's a requirement to do that. Would you like us to do that?
I think it might be a nice courtesy.
Okay, we'll make sure a copy gets sent to both of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments about the official map?
I'll send it to Belmont.
Item F in the information part of the agenda is an agreement for parking on streets near campus. At a previous meeting, the city council directed the city manager to meet with university officials to negotiate a plan for the university to manage permitted parking on streets adjacent to the university. Attaches a map, and a draft agreement is also attached here that would cause the university to pay for and erect all necessary signs, enforce the parking regulations, make a $20,000 payment to the city on November 1st, 2012, and pay the city 50% of parking ticket revenue.
I'd like to start by bringing the attention to the council that the copy included in your packet excluded a page when we scanned it. Everyone should have been given a copy of the complete document that includes items number 2 through 8. Is there anybody that does not have the complete document? Okay.
The only question I have about this is, and I remember us talking about this before, and I can't for the life of me remember what the explanation was, is that the area in consideration is up to the, about halfway up College Drive, and the northern half is not listed as under this agreement. And I would be willing to bet 30 cents that we're gonna get cars parking not only in College Drive, but it's also gonna go up Sunset Drive. People who won't wanna pay for those permits, and I'm wondering how we're gonna handle that. Or if there's any plan to handle it.
That's a good point. I think that was part of the staff note, that's definitely a likely occurrence. People who are not interested in purchasing permits are gonna park further into neighborhoods. And I believe there is parking on Sunset, Howard?
Parking is allowed on Sunset right now.
Okay.
Just make no overnight parking on Sunset.
We could certainly do that.
And or College
Expect
Drive.
residents don't park on.
Well, there might
My understanding was that this was going to be the same area that, on College Drive, that is currently covered by the agreement we have for snow removal
Snow
and
emergency.
snow emergency parking.
I have a copy of that agreement in my hands, and it does say that College Drive goes from Greenwood to Sunset under that particular agreement for snow removal.
Greenwood to Sunset.
Yes.
Right. So it really should, I would suggest that this agreement should be the same as the agreement
Okay.
that is for the parking, snow emergency parking.
That's
Really all of
easy
the
to change.
parking
Yep.
on College Drive. And I would suggest, secondly, that we survey the residents on Sunset Drive to see about their overnight parking, and if in fact they do no overnight parking on if there's consensus that there's little or no owner occupied or resident parking on Sunset, that we make that no overnight parking.
That would
You
come
can go so
forward.
far as to say that no overnight parking would be, say, August 20th through May 31st or something, and leave the summer open so they can do what they want, because during the summer, you're not gonna have that pressure there at all.
Yeah, campus is empty.
We can survey the property owners along that street and then bring that back as a separate ordinance.
Great.
Yeah, let's think about that too, because just trying to think if there's any circumstance where they might do something in the summer and suddenly we got a bunch of people here looking for places to park.
Now, I see on this that there was I do have a question. There's, are the number of Ken, you did a summary, 326 spaces you suspect in this area of College Drive, Greenwood Avenue, and University Plaza, is that correct?
326?
Right.
Yeah, you can go up there and add those all up. College Drive is 23 on the west and 45 on the east, and Greenwood and so forth, University Plaza.
Okay. In the middle of the page, right above where it says summary-interior, there's a 279 stalls. Help me understand what that number represents.
Summary exterior?
I can speak to that. That's directly below the Greenwood Avenue drawing.
Right.
The estimate by Mr. Killian, which is 326 spaces, includes all of the 40 spaces between West Main and University. And rather than including all 40, I believe I did an estimate and came up with 279. The reality is the number is probably somewhere in between the two. I'm not sure how many of those 40 spaces are included in this proposal and how many are not.
Well, now they would all be because they're on College Drive, right?
No, College Drive, remember the agreement stops at Sunset. So everything across the street from Sunset and north to West Main would not be included.
There are no parking spaces on College Drive north of West Main. Because College Drive doesn't extend.
Right, I said north to West Main.
Okay.
So everything
And
south.
there is no parking on the west side of College Drive,
Right.
north of Sunset Drive.
Right.
Right.
And there's only like 2 parking spots, perhaps, on College Drive, north of Sunset Drive. Maybe there's 2, maybe there's 3, because there's a turning lane.
Right. I was not aware of that. I just assumed that the 40 would be cut in half, or there'd be 20 or 15 there.
So I think that in reality, we're talking about all of the parking spots on College Drive.
Okay.
You know, the numbers are estimates or guesses or whatever, and they're probably in the ballpark somewhere there. I would expect, especially down College Drive, since we've already seen openings there this year after they raised the price, and there's openings on West Greenwood Avenue down toward where the sewer plant was for the first time in memory. The employees could actually park on the street there. That's the total number of possible parking spaces, but I sincerely doubt they're going to be filling all of them up. When they require parking spaces, a lot of people who currently are parking there for free are going to choose not to bring cars. I think we're going to see a decline in the amount of parking there, which is partly what they want anyway.
Has the parking fee been established for 212-13 by the university?
I've not heard it. Do you know?
I'm waiting on final approval, but it's yes.
It's a secret, in other words, until it gets approved.
Final approval is waiting on 210 for staff and 185 for students. And then various semester remote, motorcycle, et cetera, all those other versions.
And Christina, how does that compare to last year?
She's gonna,
Staff
she
is at
should come up.
198.
Would you come up to the microphone, Christine, please?
So staff is proposed for 210 and it was at 198 last year. Students are proposed for 185 and they were at 151 last year. Primarily, the primary reason for the difference between staff and students is students have a $20 parking seg fee that they all pay. So we want to keep students at least $20 below staff, but otherwise there's no major reason for the difference.
Is there been any estimate by your office as to the number of students that might make use of the interior spots here once we go to this?
No, in fact, when we were originally looking at it, we kind of wanted to say no overnight parking there and use that more for commuter and staff parking, but it was felt without enough time to discuss it with the residence hall students that we didn't want to put that big a change on them. With new student registration starting on Monday, I will be attending all of the sessions talking about parking and transportation, and that if you bring a car, you do need a permit. Right now, we know at least 11% of students who live on campus and have cars don't buy permits, and we want to strongly discourage that. So, but I don't know what impact all the changes will be with the shuttle and the other things we're doing. We're hoping fewer students will bring cars, but right now we don't. There's so many changes, we don't know what the impact will be.
So, since this is a one-year agreement, if we find out this is a honey hole and we're making tons of money, we can adjust the agreement
And if we find out that we're losing money on it, then yes. Yeah, that's why 1-year agreement and see what happens.
Because this would amount to the city getting about a third of the revenue for the spaces that are sold. at
If we sell
$20,000.
that many more permits. And if we don't sell any more permits, then we're eating the cost.
And then I noted that the agreement also calls for the university to split the ticket revenue or the violation revenue, however you say it.
Mhm.
And so will you be issuing different kinds of color tickets?
No, the campus police are moving to a handheld ticketer device, and they'll indicate on there where the ticket was given, and they'll be able to run a report, and if it was given on one of those streets, they can pull out that report.
interesting to see how it goes.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Anything else?
Okay, item G is agreement for campus police enforcement at Roundtree Commons. This is a mutual aid agreement. We've been talking about having the university police handle the policing services at Roundtree Commons, and this is finally, after the attorneys got done making their share of the money, eventually we're able to come up with a mutual aid agreement to do that.
Yes.
Long time to get the university lawyers to sign off on that, didn't it?
I think the process worked well. I think the agreement shows that it had ample time for review by everyone concerned, I think.
That's a nice way to say that. Any comments on that?
It only covers Roundtree Commons,
That's true.
and once they step off that property, then they have no authority.
The intergovernmental agreement applies to UWP, University of Wisconsin Police Department, providing services under mutual aid request for Roundtree Commons area, which is the building and the lot.
Other questions, comments? Item H is a relocation order for Vision Drive. This is to facilitate the eventual installation of Vision Drive over to the stub that comes out where Ubersox Chrysler is located.
I did review this with Paydick at our last meeting, and I will report that I think it was a very good discussion. We held out maps and started talking about how eventually that space is, whether the city puts the road in 2012, 2013, it'll still be important to have the right of way. And Barb, Ms. Dawson, you were there. I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
Okay. Item I is benches in City Park. There's a request to put 2 permanent benches on concrete pads in City Park, and we have not only a picture of what those benches would look like, as well as a map showing their locations. I'm not sure this will be of any value to us at all, but I'll hold it up anyway.
It doesn't look real well on
doesn't do
yellow
very well.
paper.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know how.
It's actually not, well, it's upside down, see? That's what, actually, that doesn't show up too badly on TV.
That's all right.
Okay. Comments on that? Item J is the Ziegert Fund authorization. This is a request to seek permission to use money from the Harry Ziegert Trust Fund to provide a 2-inch asphalt overlay on all drives in Greenwood Cemetery. This is a source of funding we can use for that. If the quote of $43,000 and change is approved, it will leave about $31,552 in the account.
Can somebody, Dwayne, can you tell us if the money was given in trusts? I mean, as spendable money or as money that is, the original money was given as endowment money, not to be spent? What were the original? This is the first time, I can't even remember talking about the Ziegert Fund before.
Yeah, it was given a lot of years ago. It's basically available for, I think there's 2 different areas. One is for the general cemetery and one is for the mausoleum. So it's available.
So my question is 100% of the money that was given spendable money, or is there any money, when this money was given, was the assumption that it would be held and only the interest or the earnings be used?
I believe 100% is available for spending.
Okay. And you have documentation on that?
Yes, I have a copy of the will and stuff, yes.
This cemetery doesn't exactly extend over Stonebridge Road, does it? Just a thought, sorry.
Exactly.
Okay, if there are no other questions, comments, or observations, we will end the televised portion of the meeting and move into a work session to discuss the 2013 staffing plan implementation and Director of Administration job description. We'll then move into closed session to discuss the strategy to be used in collecting the city's judgment against Daryl Kallenbach, and to discuss the police dispatch negotiations, and return to open session for any potential action on those closed session items, if any, and then adjourn. So we'll take about a 5-minute break here and then reconvene at our usual spot.